a YouTuber named MegaLag came to the conclusion that Enchroma lenses are a scam.
Turns out all those viral videos were just a colorful smokescreen for what is actually a giant scam.
And I came to the same conclusion initially, because I hadn't done my homework. And I didn't realize that there's actually a way that by using a filter, you can make people see more colors. By the way, I have no problem telling people that something can be a scam, right? I've done that before. But like MegaLag, I didn't have all the information. And freeze. I was halfway done editing this video when MegaLag came out with another video. So now I have to tag on more stuff at the end of this video. In the meantime, listen to this guy. Thanks. I'm a photographer. I've been a photographer for about 35 years. Way back when I was in college, I took a class called Lasers, Holography, and Modern Optics. I interned in the darkroom. I was kind of known as the guy who was better at printing colors than most people because I was just really good at being patient at seeing color. This is both a case of not understanding what the problem is, so you can understand what the solution is. So I'm going to break this down into 5 parts. Part 1, how we perceive color. Part 2, what a filter is. Part 3, what color blindness is. Part 4, how Enchroma lenses work. And Part 5, all the things that MegaLag got wrong. And boy howdy, there's a bunch of them. If you remember anything from your grade school science class, you know that our eyes consist of rods and cones in the back of our eyes. Rods are what help us detect luminescence. If you've ever been in a dark room before and you can make out shapes, congratulations, rods, you've been doing your work. Cones are the things that let us see color. And it's all about perception of color, so you have to keep that in the back of your head. We have 3 types of cones, and we've kind of given them the names red, green, and blue. They're also known as long wavelength, which is red, medium wavelength, which is green, and short wavelength, which is blue. These cones help us perceive color, and it's important for you to remember the word perceive. It's important to know that our brain is doing most of the grunt work because even though the cones can detect 3 different colors, it's our brains that have to combine those 3 different colors into the rainbow of colors that we see, which are literally in the millions. Not only that, but our perception changes with the color of light. If I have what we would consider to be a yellowish light, an incandescent light, or if you're using an LED light, then it's going to be a soft, warm light. That's going to be somewhere in about the 3200K spectrum. Hey nerds, 3200K, that's known as Kelvin. If we're talking about daylight, that's bluer light, which goes about 5500 to 6500 Kelvin. Why does that matter? Most of the light that's going into our eyes is reflected off of things. It's not going directly into our eye. So the color of the light that's being reflected is going to mean as much as the color of the light that's reflected. If you have really warm light, it's going to reflect more yellows. If you have really blue light, it's going to reflect more blues. And here's where the cool thing comes in. Our eyes auto white balance constantly. And they're doing the thing that our digital cameras or our cell phones would normally do, which is let's try to figure out what the whitest thing in this room is. And we're going to call that white, and then we're going to auto balance all the colors off of that. When it comes to perceiving color, our world is not black and white. See what I did there? What color is this dress? In 2015, Cecilia Bleasdale sent this image to her mother, Grace. Grace and Cecilia disagreed on what color it was, so Grace posted it online and asked people to name the color. Was it white with gold or blue with black? BuzzFeed picked it up. If you're currently arguing that it's one of these 2 sets of colors, you would have been one of 14,000 people viewing this on Tumblr every second. At its peak, it was creating 11,000 tweets per minute. Why is that important? Ever argue with someone about what color a wall was? What color a car is? In the case of the dress, the disagreement over the color made scientists study it. They came to the conclusion that people's perceived color is also informed by their perception of lighting. Go figure. Colors change depending on the illumination and how our individual brains use that information, and how we white balance it. To review, our brains are constantly adjusting white balance to the light around us and trying to adjust colors so that they remain inside of what our visual perception is. Side note, the way that humans perceive color is different from different creatures in the world. There are some creatures that detect ultraviolet light because their food can reflect more light in the ultraviolet spectrum, whereas we need to see the difference between a brown banana and a yellow banana to know that the banana is fresh enough for us to eat. Most people see this as a filter, but photographers call it a gel. A gel is a filter that blocks out all the colors but the one color that the photographer wants to go through. In this case, this is a Lee filter number 201, basically a blue filter. What it does is it transmits the one color of light that I want to go through it, in this case blue. This is a piece of Roscoe gel, I believe it's color 205. Photographers use these kind of colors, in this case like a peachish, pinkish gel, in order to either color the light that falls onto someone or color the light that falls onto the background. We need to differentiate that between the filters that a photographer puts on the front of a lens, like this. In this case, it's a blue filter that's only going to let that color of blue light, or mostly that color of blue light, into the camera. The other colors are going to be blocked, at least a little bit. There's a completely different filter that you put in front of a camera, known as a UV filter. And the reason why photographers used to put UV filters in the front of their camera all the time is because film is exceptionally sensitive to UV light. If we didn't put a UV filter on the front of our lens, what would happen is anything that was sky would be just as bright as my background right here. As opposed to if you put a UV filter on, the blue pigments inside of film aren't exposed as much and they turn blue. We use a notch filter, like a UV filter, in order to get rid of all that UV light so that our skies turn out blue. Keep in mind, UV filters improve the color of film by blocking out the UV. That's going to come in handy for you to understand later on what's going on. If it's difficult to hear my voice right now, it's because I have an organ right here that is playing a single note. That single note is right in the center of my vocals. However, if I have some kind of a notch filter, you should be able to hear my voice much better. It's going to feel a little weird, like you're missing something. But that notch filter is getting rid of the noise that's making it harder for you to perceive what I'm saying. Sensors on modern digital cameras aren't that sensitive to UV light. However, they are very sensitive to infrared light, light that's in the 700 to 1000 nanometer range. So there is a filter right in front of the sensor that's known as a hot mirror filter. The hot mirror filter filters out the infrared light that would ordinarily ruin an image by letting too much infrared light in. What makes that interesting is if you get a hold of an old digital camera and you take that hot mirror filter off, and then you go ahead and put this, which is an infrared filter that only lets in infrared light, in front of your lens, then you can take infrared pictures. Kind of cool, huh? Color blindness. 1 out of 12 men have some form of color blindness. You know how I said that there are 3 different colors of cones? If you're deficient in red cones or you're deficient in green cones, if you don't have one of those cones, we can't improve your color vision. If you have all 3 of those cones, you're known as a normal trichromat. You pronounce that. I'm going to put it up here. You'll note that all 3 colors overlap a little bit. And the red and the green, they tend to overlap a little bit more. That overlap allows you to perceive the colors that are in between, right? But let's say that the red and the green overlapped just a little bit more than they're supposed to. There's a name for that. Anomalous trichromat. You get the point. The point is that when those colors overlap a little too much, then there's a confusion of information that's traveling to your brain. And your brain is like, it could be a red, it could be a green. I don't know. You figure it out. That's what color blindness is in an anomalous trichromat. Your brain is having trouble detecting what the color actually is. So here's where things get really cool. Suppose if there was a way to cut out that confusion between those 2 colors, where they're overlapping just a little too much. Like let's say you had, I don't know, a notch filter of some sort. If you have a piece of glass and there's a notch filter on it, if you look at it on an angle, you'll see kind of like a mirror reflection. And that's because there's a very thin coating that's trying to cut a very thin part of the visible spectrum out. If you ever look at Enchroma lenses, you'll notice they look kind of mirrored. People will say that they look kind of pink going through one direction. Guess what kind of colors it's blocking out there in the center? If you think it's blocking out pink, you're actually thinking wrong. It's blocking out a little bit of the green overlap. Remember, our brains are all about perception. And if you have a red and you have a green and they're overlapping a little too much, that's too much information for the brain. But if you notch out that center, all of a sudden the brain can process that information better. But it's going to take time. If you look at the Enchroma website, it says that you have to leave the glasses on for a while, which totally makes sense because your brain is figuring out this new information that it has coming in. Yes, there's going to be some colors that you don't see because the notch filter is right there, but you're going to have less confusion of information with the red and the green cones not overlapping quite as much. And your brain is going to be able to process those things as colors. You should gain contrast between other colors that you never saw before. How crazy is that? MegaLag gets so many things wrong that it's almost hard to know where to start. He said that he was diagnosed 4 different ways: as colorblind, a strong deutan, a mild deutan, or red-green colorblind. Red-green colorblind is the same as mild or strong deutan. He couldn't see the green spill. He probably has a green deficiency. I'm not saying I know that for a fact because I don't.
And freeze. After I created my first video, MegaLag came out with a second video, where now he says,
Well, in my eyes, the green cone isn't functioning correctly.
wait, I thought you didn't know what your diagnosis was, and you were blaming it on all the companies, too. One of the first things that MegaLag did was show the reaction video of Logan Paul to the glasses, and then he plays a different clip where Logan Paul says that he saw no change, but that he just wanted to react. Which everyone who's seen Paul's video knows, because in the video, Logan twice says that it's the first time that he put them on.
You might see color for the first time.
I'm about to put on these glasses that are going to cure my color blindness for the first time in my life.
And then immediately does his oversized reaction. In other words, the only person who isn't in on the joke is MegaLag.
I exaggerated my reactions and the color blindness.
Imagine taking the videos of a YouTuber who fakes videos for a living as proof that everyone else's videos are faked. 3. But why stop there? In his second video, MegaLag wants to prove that the original study of Enchroma is compromised because Kenneth Knowlach, one of the authors, was a consultant, and as a result, he owned stock in Enchroma, as declared in the study.
Ethically speaking, how could anyone take such a paper seriously when a key author has a vested interest in the outcome of the experiment?
Good question, MegaLag. You focused on the study by the well-known University of Granada? The lead scientist in that study is E.M. Valero. You know her because you interviewed her about her study. E.M., also known as Ava Valero, also worked on a 2022 article that appeared in Optics Express with a guy named Jay Neitz. In that article, the authors declared that they had no conflict of interest related to the article on AIDS for colored deficiency. Hold on to that thought for a moment. The article states, in part, that it is impossible to make someone's vision equal to a normal trichromat, and adds that the companies involved, like Enchroma, do not claim to make someone's vision equal to a normal trichromat. This is in 2022, by the way, before MegaLag started doing his video. It also states that there is limited enhancement for natural scenes. This is what's also known as backtracking in the science field. Now, remember when I said that there was no declared conflicts of interest? Jay Neitz and his wife Maureen Neitz are looking into the possibility of using gene therapy for cone-based disorders, aka color blindness. Their company, Color Vision, is looking into molecular genetics to cure color blindness. Maybe Neitz didn't think that it was a conflict because he wasn't arguing that genetic modifications might help aid color deficiency in the future. Wait, he did. The point is, MegaLag, that you believe...
Ethically speaking, how could anyone take such a paper seriously when a key author has a vested interest in the outcome of the experiment?
Then note that Eva Valero did this article with Jay and joined him in declaring that there were no conflicts of interest in their article on AIDS for color deficiency, other than, his years of trying to solve it through gene therapy. Remember when you interviewed E.J. Patterson?
Dr. Emily Patterson, along with a team of researchers, have also published a paper that calls into question the efficacy of these glasses.
E.J. worked on a study called Effects of Color-Enhancing Glasses on Color Vision in Congenital Red-Green Color Deficiencies. Two of the co-authors listed were J. Neitz and M. Neitz. The authors declared no conflict of interest.
When a key author has a vested interest in the outcome of the experiment.
Maybe Neitz didn't consider the work that he was doing in gene therapy on restoring trichromatic vision important to the study. Oh wait, he did. My point is that if MegaLag truly feels that you can't trust a study where the author has an interest in the outcome of the experiment, where they declare their conflict of interest, how does he use studies where the authors either have a clear conflict of interest or work with someone who has a clear conflict of interest on a study and don't declare their conflict? Because maybe it's just me, but working on gene therapy to help folks with color blindness feels like a competing interest when you're writing papers on aids for color blindness. 4. Most influencers won't let you use their content without some form of payment. I did a review on an EXO drone a while back after buying it. I didn't have that many followers, but since many folks were skeptical about the drone, especially fans of DJI, I gave it my honest review. EXO ran across it and asked to use it on their page. I gave permission, outside of an EXO marketing guy who got in touch with me almost a year later to ask if I wanted to review one of their other drones, and he specifically told me, my honest review, I've never received any compensation or an offer of compensation. P.S. They never sent me the drone. I think the guy wasn't authorized to give it to me. 5. You found a video where someone wrote the incorrect color on balloons, so you believe that all the videos where people identify balloons correctly is wrong. Why? You literally have dozens of videos of people who don't have colors written on balloons and they identify them correctly. Go figure, maybe the glasses are having some kind of an aid and help to them. 6. MegaLag finds it significant that someone said on day 0 that their glasses were a scam, and he thinks that should have been included in the main paper. Why? There was genuinely nothing scientific about that. That's MegaLag looking for confirmation bias. 7. He compares Enchroma lenses to the type of lenses that hunters wear? What the heck? Hunters wear UV lenses that also darken blue to darken the sky, or polarized lenses to lessen glare. Polarized lenses are nothing like Enchroma lenses and are a completely different type of technology. Neither are anything like Enchroma lenses that have very specific parts of the visible wavelength notched out. 8. When MegaLag interviews Kenneth, he shows part of the letter to MegaLag. What he doesn't show is the entire quote that Kenneth wrote. There are several papers that demonstrate they do increase the colors along the dimension affected in anomalous vision, but at the expense of some loss elsewhere in the color space. Why didn't he ask Kenneth about this? 9. MegaLag talks about the influencer program, but leaves out, must take Enchroma's colorblindness test at the top. 2 people must confirm. Clearly, Enchroma is only looking for the effects on folks who have actual color blindness, which seems risky if they're a scam. 10. MegaLag believes that everyone who puts on glasses and has an emotional reaction is only doing so because they are being watched by friends. This presumes that everyone who wears Enchroma glasses are 1. Sociopaths, 2. Great actors. I teach performance. Trust me, most folks are horrible actors. The reason why they're pausing is because their brains are starting to process what they're seeing for the first time. And there's a reason why it takes them a couple seconds in order to just blink. They're not sure exactly what they're seeing. Their brain is catching up to what their eyes are processing.
Beyond all of that, one of the biggest mistakes that I saw was the way that he was going to that website of the other group, Two Hearts, One Soul. He was basically accusing them of doing something wrong and expecting anything but a middle finger in response to what he was accusing them of. Guess what? If you come at someone really aggressively, at some point in time, they're just going to block you out. He wasn't asking the questions that he should be asking. And primarily, the first question he should have asked was, hey, is that really improving your color? But that wasn't where he went to. He was basically like accusing them of scamming everyone. If you accuse me of scamming you, right away, I'm going to start tuning you out. And I'm probably not going to listen to you right away. But if you start asking me questions about Enchroma, I'm probably going to not only try to listen to you better, but I'm going to try to respond to you better. Last point I wanted to make. Man, isn't it cool that our brains see so much color? I understand what a lucky, fortunate dude I am that I'm able to see all those colors. And when I see people that are able to perceive more colors, yeah, it's going to affect me, like it affects everyone emotionally. When you see a sunset, when you see a sunrise, when you go into a garden and you see that bouquet of flowers for the first time, you get emotional. And that was the last point that I wanted to make. Colors make us emotional. And how cool is it that colors make us emotional? Because our brains are perceiving all the things around us. We get into nature and we go crazy with love because we see all the different colors. How lucky are we to see all of that? Especially when there are so many creatures on the planet that can only see in monochrome or only see in UV light. We get the beauty of being able to see in different colors, and we're fortunate beings. In my opinion, the person who invented and discovered Enchroma lenses should get a Nobel Prize, because how cool is it that they're able to help people who have never seen color see more colors than ever before? That's crazy cool, guys. Don't bash someone as a scam because you don't understand the science behind it. And if it turns out I'm totally wrong, I'm going to come back here and explain to you how I got things so wrong. My name is John Abbott. I'm a photographer. Check out my other stuff. It's not all about color, but it's pretty much all in color.
Along the way, I ran across the phrase tetrachromacy. What is that? Well, it turns out that a small percentage of women have 4 cones, and the theory is that the 4th cone color gives them an even greater perception of color.